Hi, thank you so much for all your patience. I'm sorry, this has been a little bit of an experience for all of us, but we're here. Thank you, coming to you from Western region of SnapEd, New York. I'm Christina.
I'm Trish. Hi, everybody. Yeah, again, technical difficulties, you know, it happens. All good, though. We're here. We're celebrating the 4th week of National Nutrition Month. And the tip for this week is focus on eating with the environment in mind.
Absolutely. And today we're going to be doing that by looking at our My Plate, of course. First of all, if you've never seen My Plate before, My Plate shows us the 5 food groups we should be eating from each and every day to stay healthy, and a quarter of our plate every day for most meals and snacks should be protein. So what best ways can we get protein other than a plant-based protein, of course? Because with eating with the environment in mind, we want to make sure we're cutting back on those natural greenhouse gases that are emitted from some other types of proteins you may be eating, and we're cutting back on some of the water as well as pollutants that the other types could be polluting to the environment. So eating with the environment in mind, we're going to eat beans today. And how are we going to do that?
Beans. And our topic, we forgot to mention our topic is put some Bean-Spiration into your day. So that's what we're here for today. We are going to hopefully inspire you to eat more beans throughout your meals during the week. So the reason why we picked beans, well, the environment, right? It's a sustainable food. So again, great for the environment. Also great for our wallets, right? Beans are very inexpensive. You got a couple options, right? You got the canned beans, a very convenient, easy to use. And then Christina's favorite,
dried beans, of course. Both great ways to get some beans in your day, as well as other plant-based proteins. But canned beans or dried beans are both great ways to get again, that low, inexpensive bean in your day. But why do we need to eat protein? We never even really talked about
protein.
that.
Oh, my goodness. So protein is a very important, essential nutrient, meaning your body, we have to eat it in order to get it into our body. So Christina mentioned different ways to get protein in, but beans actually are high in protein. And protein does a million different things in our bodies, but one of the things we can think about is helps to build and repair our tissues in our body. So whether that's our hair, our skin, our nails, our organs, right? So very, very important. But besides protein, beans are also high in fiber. And I think fiber is one of our favorite nutrients here at SnapEd, just because I feel like it doesn't get enough attention as it should. So Christina, what are some benefits of eating fiber?
Yeah, fiber is found in a lot of plant foods, all of our fruits, our vegetables, and our whole grains. Beans are one of the coolest vegetable that you can eat because they're both a protein and a vegetable on My Plate. The only food that belongs to 2 food groups. I love to mention that. It's a really fun fact. But yeah, fiber is something that actually helps fill us up, helps us feel fuller longer, and it helps clean out our digestive system. So while we're eating this really cool food, it's actually acting like a scrub brush and cleaning our insides. So it's doing so many different purposes. Beans are super, super cool. So today we're going to show you a really yummy chickpea popper recipe. This recipe can be found on our SnapEd NY website, of course, as well as a bunch of other really great ways to make beans. But today's recipe, we're actually going to cut in half as we make it today. So Trisha's going to tell us and walk us through that right now.
Excellent. So you really can make this recipe with any different type of bean, and we do want to recommend eating a variety of different types of beans because although they all are high in protein, fiber, and iron, they have different varying amounts of other nutrients, so get a variety. So we're using chickpeas today, again, very high in fiber, so for about a half cup serving, you are getting, 7 grams of protein, excellent, and you're also getting 4 grams of fiber, so really great way to add that fiber and protein in your diet. So what we're doing here, let's go over our ingredients first. So we got our can of chickpeas. We'll mention these are regular chickpeas, nothing special. However, you can try to find a low sodium or no salt added version if you are unable to, right? It's probably pretty common. They might not offer that at stores. What we're gonna do is we're gonna drain and rinse them. And rinsing them off with cold water actually can get rid of up to 40% of that excess sodium. So that's a great way to reduce salt in our diet because as we know, well, we might not know, but eating a ton of salt all day, every day will raise our blood pressure, and high blood pressure without it being controlled can contribute to heart disease. So we want to try and again, we forgot to mention beans are low in calories and have no saturated fat. And saturated fat is another, it's an unhealthy fat. If we eat too much of it, again, contributes to heart disease. So There we go. So
Wow.
we got our beans.
Thank you for all of those facts. That was so many facts. Please take a moment to digest all that because that was a lot. Again, we can't talk enough about how many great options beans provide for our bodies. But again, that salt, going back to that salt. Salt's commonly put in a lot of those packaged or processed foods that we eat. Another way, again, going back to those dried beans, there's no added salt in here. And you can always flavor your food, but once you put that salt's already in there, we can't take it out, right? So that's what we're going to show you today, how to dress these up and add them to as maybe hopefully your new favorite snack or on top of a salad or so forth. So today we're going to be using some spices that's more of a ranch style seasoning. So what do we have, Trish?
We got some parsley. So a lot of these are probably common spices that you already have lying around in your pantry that you don't know what to do with. So add them to your beans. So we got some parsley. Okay. We got some dill weed, very common spice and ranch flavors. We also have some onion powder, and then we have some garlic. We're gonna have a little bit of salt and pepper to give them some nice, round out those flavors. And then you could use oil, but we're gonna use just a spray, cooking spray oil. End up using less, so it's a matter of choice, whatever you wanna do. Okay.
You want to rinse our beans?
Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna try and get stuff out of the way so everybody can kind of see what we got going on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just open these. And again, always remember to wash your hands with warm soap and water for about 20 seconds before you start cooking.
Absolutely.
Always like to remind everybody of that. Alrighty.
So we're gonna put these chickpeas in the oven while Trish is opening that can. We're gonna preheat our oven to 400 degrees. If you don't want to use the oven and you have the option to use the air fryer, this is also a great one to use in the air fryer. I use this, it takes a little bit less time. I think Trish knew the parameters of using the air fryer.
Yes.
Depending on your air fryer's functions.
It will take a lot less time. I think it's about oops, can openers give me some trouble, but it's okay. We did it. We got it open. So I'm going to go ahead and just drain and rinse these out. All right. We got them in our colander. Now I'll just rinse a little bit with cold water. Got our cold water. Kind of jumble them up a little bit, rinsing them out.
All right, what I'm doing over here is getting some paper towels ready. If you don't want to use paper towels because it is a little bit wasteful, we do want to remember that we're eating with the environment in mind. So maybe using a kitchen towel that's nice and clean. What we were going to do is actually just pat these dry to reduce some of that extra moisture in the beans. Because if you cook them in the oven without doing this step, they're not going to be as crispy. And unless you prefer the less crispy texture, these are the crispiness is what we're going for.
Yeah, that is.
So
what
we're going to do is just kind of lay them flat, get some moisture off. Doesn't take much. Probably use way too many paper towels.
Just like to roll them around a little bit.
Yeah, and then you're just going to pop them right back in a bowl so you can dress them up. And get like a sweet taste. Maybe you do some cinnamon or some nutmeg, maybe a pumpkin spice flavor for that seasonal on food.
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, there's so many different ways you could play with this.
You could make them sweet or you can make them more savory. So maybe doing like a taco-ish seasoning, like cumin and chili powder, paprika. You could do a turmeric and ginger. You could really get super creative and have a fun time with this.
Okay, spices going.
All right,
Oh,
so we do need a spray. So before we add our seasonings, we do need to spray our pan. So we're just going to spray it so they don't stick to the pan.
Yeah,
Just a little bit. There we go.
and fresh herbs would work well. You just don't need to use as much, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, you could definitely use the fresh. Or even use them as like a topping after you make it.
Right.
To give some extra additional flavors. All right, first up, we got our parsley. So, parsley in the recipe is 1 teaspoon. Again, we're halving it, so we're using a half teaspoon. Got our half teaspoon. You don't have to be precise, but try and fill it all the way to the top. All right, parsley done.
You want to do that still?
Yeah, let's do the dill. Dill is very important for ranch flavor. So, we got 1 teaspoon of the dill. If you're making the full recipe, it would be 2 teaspoons. So, I'm going to be ambitious, and I'm just going to throw it over here and hope that I don't make it go everywhere. A little bit extra. That's okay. Dill is delicious. Okay, excellent. We have our garlic powder next. So we are adding in a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And garlic powder is really nice because if you don't have fresh garlic cloves and you don't feel like cutting them up,
Yeah.
you can just use some garlic powder.
I honestly hate when my hands smell after I cut garlic, so that is my go-to is using the dried variety.
Yeah. It can be a little tedious. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love fresh garlic. It is delicious, but sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. And that's okay.
You could probably use the jar garlic too, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Onion powder. We got our onion powder. Perfect. So next up, we just have our salt and pepper. Because we are halving the recipe, we are using 1/4 teaspoon of salt and pepper. And of course, once you taste them, once they're cooked, you could always add a little bit more if you think it needs it. But I always I like cooking first and then adding the salt after because a little bit of the salt is cooked off through the process of cooking it with heat. Okay, so we got our salt. We almost got all our ingredients. I just gotta get this pepper open.
What I like to mention too is that this is just really a small amount of salt we're adding to these beans. In the grand scheme of most of the foods that we eat that are processed and pre-prepared, they have a ton more salt than this small amount that we're adding. We're not actually as concerned when we're adding salt at the table or when we're cooking. It's mostly in the food that we're already eating is 80% or more of the salt in our diet. So we've got all our spices and seasonings in there. Mixing it up. So it's because they're dry, the seasonings are really sticking to those chickpeas now, and they're going to create so much good flavor in the oven.
Yeah, and we're also, so this is the point in time in which you could add a little bit of oil if that's what you wanted to use. But once we get these on the pan, oops, we are, forgot there was oil on there. We are going to go ahead and give them another spray. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. We got them mixed up. They all are coated with our delicious ranch-style seasoning.
Ooh, and make sure they lay flat so then you get that really crispy texture that you want. And then we're just gonna go pop these in the oven.
Yeah, excellent. So, oh wait, we gotta spray
one more time
with our.
Good thing I have Trish here.
A little bit of oil.
There we go.
Voila. Okay, so our oven should be preheated to 400 degrees. So we're just gonna go ahead and pop them in the oven.
Okay.
And get them cooking. And obviously we're not going to be here the entire time that we are.
With the magic of TV, we already have some ready. So easy enough. So you can see the texture. The color changed a bit. They're a little more like brownish, tannish. These store really great. Up for a few days, they're going to last pretty crispy.
Yeah, about 4 to 5 days, I'd say.
Store them. Don't steal them. Store them in an airtight container, probably just on the counter or in a cupboard. Don't put them in the refrigerator because they're going to reabsorb that moisture and they're not going to be as crispy. If that does happen to you, you can really just pop them back in the oven or the air fryer again. Oh, we forgot to ask people for questions. Always put your questions in the chat throughout, please. We want to know your questions.
Yeah,
We want to listen. What kind of ways do you use plant-based proteins? Does anyone use them already in their day? It could be used beans. Maybe it's a different type of plant-based protein. I've actually just been recently dabbling in some tofu. That's new to me, so that's been fun.
That is awesome. I'm actually making a red lentil curry this week. So super easy, lots of spices, red lentils, and adding in some coconut milk. And you can really add that with any veggies or whole grain, rice, whatever you want. But I will say, and specifically for these chickpea poppers, I'm just curious if anyone's used like any different spices or seasonings to season them. But we will mention that you can eat them as a snack, of course. But you could also add them, I think Christina mentioned, to a salad in place of croutons, so you still get that nice little crunch and texture. You could also, they're a great replacement for chips. So if you are a person that likes to sit down on the couch and watch TV and you want a little snacky snack, you can make these chickpeas and they are delicious and you'll get that crunch. You can really have like a large amount. So about a serving size, let's see what we got here, is a half cup. So that's a good amount, right? Versus like, what is the serving size of chips? What is it, like 7 to 10 chips or something ridiculous?
Which is impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part about these chickpeas is that they're going to fill you up, right? We mentioned they're full of fiber, so they're going to help keep you full without adding in a lot of calories.
Absolutely.
And what else? Add them to soups, salads, snack.
One thing we did forget to mention, which is, I think, most important, is whenever you're adding more fiber to your diet, you always want to remember to drink some more water with that, because unfortunately, as many benefits as these beans or other fruits and vegetables provide our body, especially the fiber, the counteraction can happen. So if you eat too much fiber and not drink enough water, you're going to have that counteraction happen. So remember to always, if you're going to increase your fruits or vegetables or your beans or your proteins like that, your plant-based proteins, you want to increase your water intake as well. You definitely don't want to feel gassy or, not good after eating those delicious beans.
Right.
All right, we have
And
some
the more you
questions.
eat them, the more you get used to them, the less you'll have to deal with those like uncomfortable like
Yes.
tummy symptoms. So
Not
yeah.
to deter anyone, but yeah, just proactive. All right, so we have some questions. Can you freeze dried beans once rehydrated? I personally do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I am one to plan ahead, so whenever I have a time to plan ahead and hydrate those beans, cook them, and then I portion them out, so then we're good to go. I can portion out 1 to 2 cups in a bag or container, and then put them in the freezer, label them with date how much. You can easily pop those in frozen into soup or anything else too.
Right, and same goes with canned beans. If you recipe calls for half a can of beans, freeze the rest, right?
Yes.
Make sure you use those at a later date, but it'll help if you don't have anything to make. You got some beans in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Super easy.
So what if you make too many, Trish? That's another question that came in through the chat.
Oh,
What if you
make too many of the
Is there such a
crispy
thing as too
chickpeas?
many?
I would say I don't know. Wouldn't recommend necessarily freezing these chickpeas only because I feel like they're going to be awkward when you try and cook them after being frozen. You're really not going to get that crunch.
Might overcook them too.
Yeah,
Trying to
right,
recook them.
right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if
So
someone does try
you can-
that.
You
let
can
us
have
know.
the recipe like we did. So
Yes.
half the recipe, start with 1 can, right? Go from there and just try and add it to your snacks or add it to your meals rather. So maybe not breakfast, but I guess if you have an omelet, you could probably add, or some eggs, you could add a little chickpea.
Mhm.
If you have, depending on what you have for lunch. And you know how you have like chips on the side with a sandwich? Have a little bit of chickpeas. For dinner, I don't know, maybe you have like a rice bowl or like a taco bowl type situation, add some chickpeas on top, right? So just
Or
try
another
and
kind of bean.
add them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what, does anyone not use beans? Is there like a reason why maybe you don't prefer to use a plant-based protein, or is there any cons in your life why you're maybe avoiding it, or maybe you just haven't, taken that next step to try to incorporate some more, or didn't really know all the benefits maybe? I'd love to hear if anyone has any comments on that, or, yeah, I think those were all of our questions.
Oh wait, I
Unless
forgot
there's
to
any-
do my trivia question though.
Oh, do your trivia
I'm
question.
just very excited about my trivia question. Okay. Quick trivia question before we finish up. True or false? Does eating beans help you to live longer? What do you think, Christina?
I wish we had some music. I'm gonna go with true.
True, woohoo! Yeah, so we mentioned that eating beans helps prevent chronic diseases. In addition to that, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the blue zones. So there are communities around the world that boast having the highest amount of people living in their hundreds. And actually their diet, a huge part of their diet is beans. Eat a lot of beans, right? So
we're seeing this again and again, that beans just provide all these great benefits, low cost, easy to prepare, easy to add to meals, find recipes.
environmentally friendly.
Environmentally
right?
friendly, to always eat with the
Yep.
environment in mind, not just during National Nutrition Month. And again, anytime you are interested in trying a new recipe, always log on to our SnapEd website. I believe it was in the chat. If you need us to put that in again, we can. We don't want to keep you too long
Yeah.
because I know we're
do
over
before
time
we
here.
we want to mention that we do have a really fun handout on the SnapEd website. 10 ways to use beans, and there's a lot of really interesting ways that you might not have thought about, like grinding them into a flour to make like baked goods that have more fiber and protein. So check that out. Again, if you have any questions we didn't get to, we apologize.
SnapEd website.
Yeah, SnapEd website, absolutely. And we hope to see everyone again soon.
Yes, thank you for having us.